Well, there's a chance for it, but I don't think our guys will fall into a pattern like that. We want to win every game. I've never seen a group of guys that are quite like that. See, we were down goal the other night in Tulsa and came back and scored 4 in the second period and beat them. I don't think we're going to let ourselves get complacent. We don't want to.
How are you feeling about your own performance at this stage of the season?
Well, I feel I've come along, and I've played better the last 10 games I've played, but there's been a lot of help on the blue line, and the forwards are coming back a lot better. We're playing a much better defensive game since I've been back in. But I don't think I'm ready for the playoffs yet. I think we've got another month and a half, 2 months to go, and I think by then we should be hitting a pretty good peak, the whole 20 of us.
The club's been fortunate in that with all the injuries you've had, somebody's always been able to step in and fill the gap, haven't they?
We've been very lucky. We've been real lucky that way. We've never had, let's see, one guy carrying the whole load, you can put it that way.
Well, of course, John Conley is great as far as I am concerned. John Conley, of course, I think is a man for our time, because he is a leader showing us that a man should be greater than his political side. He's a Democrat, but to him, America and people internationally come first. And I see that his work, his role upon this earth is just beginning. The big things are yet ahead.
Do you see him as a major political leader elected?
When you say elected, I see him as a major political leader, yes. And he will go down in history as a great man, as one of America's great men.
The terse message on the side of the police car is a misnomer. Bear, spelled B-E-A-R, is the German Shepherd, and he's back on the Dallas police force. Bear is a friendly, playful, 3-year-old German Shepherd, but this is all a part of his unique training. Bear is a bomb finder. In his work for the Dallas Police Department, he is never allowed to make even one mistake. Bear came to the police workshop at Fair Park today, demonstrating his exacting training. At the command from his trainer, Bear begins the hunt. Earlier, I hid an almost odorless plastic explosive, C4, for the dog to find. Dallas Patrolman Selton Norman is Bear's trainer. The two were dismissed from the Dallas Police Department last December the 27th, when Officer Norman's pistol discharged during a disturbance. Since then, Norman has been reinstated and the pair are back at work. The dog was in training for 4 months to detect the odor of dynamite and C4. He is one of the 10 German Shepherds in the Dallas Police Department's Canine Unit of the Tactical Section.
Find the ball. Find the ball. Go get it. Find the ball. All right. Put it in the good.
Officer Norman, did the month off hurt Bear's training in any way?
No, ma'am, it didn't hurt it. I kept him at home and practiced with him while we was off.
Was it hard to teach Bear not to retrieve the bomb?
Yes, ma'am, that was the hardest part of the training, because it's natural for a dog, when he finds anything, to try to pick it up and bring it back to his master.
Has the idea of using a German Shepherd in bomb detection been used anywhere else in the United States?
Yes, ma'am, it's been used in Washington, D.C. However, we train our dog a little bit different from theirs. They teach their dog to bark when he alerts on a bomb. We teach ours to sit, because some bombs are made up in such a way that they will explode by sound waves or the slightest disturbance.
Will Bear respond to anyone saying find the bomb, or just you?
Well, I trained him to work with me, but I've also trained some of the other officers to handle him in case that something happens that I'm not available.
Has Bear ever been fooled in finding a bomb?
No, ma'am, he hadn't yet.
Man's best friend is getting smarter all the time. Now he's a specialized member of the Dallas Police Force. This is Donna Witkowski for Channel 8 News on the Move.
It's not such a bad idea if you think about it. The North Central Texas Council of Governments now consists of 137 governmental bodies. It has 100 cities and 11 counties, with the potential of taking on 5 more counties. COG has school districts and even a river authority. If made into a separate state, COG would have a population larger than 20 other states and an area larger than 7 other states. In fact, the potential state would have its own Major League Soccer, baseball, football, and basketball teams. And if COG's traditional method of obtaining finances is any indication, the whole state could be run on federal grants. But perhaps the speculation there breaks down. Referring to today's 6th annual meeting of the Council of Governments, it's not that hard to imagine Arlington as state capital and Tommy Vandergriff as governor, but the Inn of Six Flags just doesn't seem to me to be an appropriate Capitol building. For Channel 8 News on the Move, I'm Jay Lewis in Arlington.
Well, it was a big win for us, Jerry. Our kids really got with it and worked hard at both ends of the court, and I was very much pleased with our defense, because the last couple of ball games, this is where we've fallen off, and we really got with it last night and did a tremendous job.
Do you feel the Tech will help you out in some of those home games that they face with contending clubs?
Well, I think at this stage of the race, you got to help yourself. You can't depend upon anybody else to do your job for you. And I just hope that we can continue to play well and go to Texas Saturday and put a good ball game together on the road, which we haven't done in quite a while.
Is Gregory Gymnasium a tough place for the visiting team?
They're all tough places for the visiting team, Jerry. Texas is especially tough for us. We haven't played real well there recently, but we can go down there and do a good job, and I think we will.
Who would you have to stop on the Longhorns in order to win, would you say?
Well, of course, I think Texas has tremendous balance. This is one of their strong parts, but they have Larry Robinson, and he's the outstanding sophomore in the league, a tremendous scorer. We didn't contain him very well here, and we'll have to do a good job on him down there.
The Texas Hemophilia Association, I think, has all sides of the picture because we fought the commercial blood banks for 2 years. We recognize the conspiratorial and collusive nature of their employing hospital pathologists to run the blood banks and make the basic decisions as to where the hospital will purchase its blood. In good conscience, I could not continue to allow the families and the community blood banks to bear the brunt of a retaliatory response from pathologists and from commercial blood banks. And therefore, I either had to cease and desist saying what it was that I was saying, or divorce myself from the Texas Hemophilia Association and Carter Blood Center, and that's what I've done.
The meeting began with a prayer by Dr. Emmett Conrad, the only black member of the school board, calling for unity and understanding among people. But some of what followed had little to do with unity and understanding. First, black militant leader Al Lipscomb led a group of other blacks who attacked the school board for its handling of the situation at Carter High School. Words like racism and bad faith were flung at the school board before emotions finally subsided. Then people concerned about the situation at Hillcrest High School testified before the school board about the safety and welfare of students at that school.
Some of these attacks have been labeled as exaggerated rumors, and I am here to tell you that they are facts.
When the black kids first went to Hillcrest, there was no orientation whatsoever given to them. They are from the gut level, Rosenholm, Ray, ghetto area. They might have a different culture background than the middle class affluence, but they have human dignity, but there is a difference in culture and whatsoever.
If our schools become a place where the students are afraid to walk down the halls and go to the restroom, it's not the kind of a school that we desire and we want.
The school board gave its assurance that everything possible is being done to ensure the safety and the welfare of the students in the Dallas public schools. And so the meeting finally ended on a positive note, the same way it began. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Fort Worth City Manager Roger Line heads a delegation asking the hospital district to consider providing all ambulance service in the county. The city managers feel if it is a valid concept that the county hospitals serve all the people in the county, then it should be a valid concept that the ambulance service should serve all of the people in the county. But there are many problems that arise. Number one is money. John Peter Smith Hospital Administrator William Taylor is assigned to tackle that problem.
It would not be possible this budget year to do it on a deficit basis because it is not in our fiscal planning for this year. In future years, it depends upon the size of the deficit financing that would be required, and certainly this is one of the things that we would want to find out in the feasibility study that will be undertaken.
Taylor is hopeful the Council of Governments will participate in the program. Several areas have been discussed, including the use of fire stations as ambulance substations. One man who knows the ambulance business well is Joe Brown. He is the manager of Crowder Ambulance Service under contract to the city of Fort Worth to provide emergency medical transportation until 1973. He doesn't feel the county-wide plan is feasible at all.
You're talking about an area that there's very little income from, and any of the municipalities around the city of Fort Worth or the county area doesn't feel like it's their responsibility to take over this burden on the taxpayer. The city of Houston, some 6 months ago, went into ambulance service on a city-wide operation. They put it in their fire department. And since they have been in operation, the city appropriated $1.3 million for a year's operation in the city of Houston. This amount lasted between 3 and 4 months.
Brown added that he feels Dallas will eventually be paying $2 million a year for ambulance service when that service is placed in fire stations in that city. The prospect of state legislation to provide the service has also been mentioned several times recently. One plan would tax every citizen in the county to finance county-wide ambulance service. But legislators locally don't like that idea. State Representative Mike Moncrief said, however, that there is the possibility that state aid could be given if a bracket bill is passed, especially for highly populated counties in the state. Moncrief said a detailed study would first have to be made. Most of the suburban cities in Tarrant County, 37 of them, now have at least some type of ambulance service without having to pay for it. If all the cities do not participate, the same inequities in service that now exist would continue. 10 out of 12 cities that I contacted voiced satisfaction with their current system. But most everyone involved, the cities, the county, and the hospital district, agree that a county-wide ambulance service is needed. But the question remains, who will pay for it? Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move in Fort Worth.
The Mustangs were the only ones who won at home last night. Do you think this might be a good omen for Saturday?
Well, I don't know, but those were big road victories, especially for A&M, and TCU pulled one out late in the ball game. And if you're going to stay in the race, this is what you have to do, and I hope that we'll be up to that.
Do you think, did Corver try not to foul as much last night?
Well, we've talked all along during the season. And I had another session with Clayton before the ball game, and he was trying his best not to make any careless fouls, and this is what we've tried to cut down on.
They started out, we had really quite a young defense. I think that's probably what Bobby worried about initially, is that he didn't have any experience at all. John Marks was in his second year but hadn't played a lot in the first year, and I think probably that's one reason Bobby got me to come down here. And I think initially I helped them quite a bit, was able to, because they were just green and they just didn't know, and I just had a few years and was able to point a few things out. Right now they're playing so well, I think they're helping me out.
Bart, which of the 3 games this weekend do you think will be the toughest?
Gee, it's been really hard to say. Everybody was telling us how well Fort Worth was playing. They were on a 6-game lossless streak without a loss, and then we go and beat them 8-0. So it'll very likely be a very tough game in Fort Worth. But I think probably the Omaha game here Friday will be as tough as any, because it's the first game of the 3. Sometimes you're a little bit sluggish, and I would pick that one. Probably it takes maybe a period to get going, and then you see if it does. If they jump on you quick, you might be down a couple of goals in the first period. You don't like to think that way, but sometimes it happens that way. And then again, Tulsa Sunday might not be too easy, but I think everybody pretty well agrees that the Friday night game is usually a little bit tougher to get going and get your momentum up.
Well, I tell you, Jay, like with, Freeman and Steve, and they're really, tremendous guards. And, they've been around for a while, and this is just my second year. And, if I can come off the bench as a 6th man or, come in and shoot a couple 3-pointers or get the team rallying, I'm for as long as we're winning.
What are the mental thoughts that go through your mind when you know you have to shoot a 3-pointer? Do you just put it up, or could you explain it?
Well, really, it's not that much, explains just that, like, when you're behind, that's when, when the pressure's really on, because, if you miss the shot, then wow, there goes, there goes maybe I could have got in closer and got a 2-pointer. But most of the time, to me, a 3-pointer, that's just like shooting a 15-footer, because I think I have some range from there. But it's a good, it comes in handy every now and then.
Well, then those back-to-back 3-pointers against the Nets, that made you feel real good, didn't it?
Oh, I tell you, it was really great. That we had a big crowd there, and we were behind about 15, and then they went down. They missed a couple of baskets, so we got the 3-point, which gave us 6 points. And the next thing you know, we was down by 9, and I really, felt really great that night.
Well, it helps, when you have a superstar. It's natural ability, but usually it's just dedication. If you start young and have enough fortitude, you can become a good swimmer.
You come from a family of All-American breaststrokers. Are you the 4th All-American? Is this it?
Well, my twin brother and I together are the 3rd and the 4th All-Americans. My 2 older brothers were All-Americans at Michigan State a couple of years ago.
How did you do in the Nationals last year?
Last year I took 9th individually in the 100 breaststroke. Totally surprised to me. And the reed I took 7th as in.
What are your chances of making the Olympics next year?
They're real slim. I'd have to really do past my potential. It's possible, but I'd really have to have a supreme effort.
Do you think you will defeat Michigan tomorrow night?
I think we can if everyone pulls together. If we don't have a team unity, a deep feeling inside, it'll really be difficult.
This is a Lola 142 Formula A car. It has 305 Chevrolet engine with Weber carburetors. It's got a top speed on this track about a 165 to 170. I bought it in October, and I've only ran it one time in actual race. I practiced with it a few times, and we went to Victoria with it in January this year and set the track record with it. Won 1st overall and 1st in class.
Is it dangerous driving a car like this?
Well, there's a certain amount of danger to it, but I feel like it's safer than than driving on the highway. Of course, that's an old cliche, but it's true.
What's the purpose of this outfit here, Tim, or can you talk?
Sure. Oh yeah. This is a Nomax hood that, in case of fire, keeps you from burning up. And of course, all the suit, you have underwear, socks, everything is made out of fireproof material to keep you from catching a fire. And of course, the gloves are the same way. They're Nomax also.
Well, I think the big thing is, of course, that the Consumer Affairs Department does not cost the taxpayers anything. They're able to finance the entire operation really through license fees and fines. And I think not, a second very strong point is that a strong Consumer Affairs Department not only protects consumers, but it also helps honest businessmen.
What would you say to the criticism of some people that possibly your actions in regard to a Consumer Affairs Department in Dallas, that these actions are politically motivated?
Well, I think consumer affairs and consumer interest are something that the city ought to be directly involved in. Say, for instance, if you bought a television set or you bought another item through false advertising, where would you go if you had such a complaint? There's not a spot to go, really. And I think that logically that we'll be involved in this in the city. And I think now's the time to begin to start planning for this area and getting into this area.
Today, try out the car mainly and help promote the track.
The elderly people are a tremendous source of tragedy in the fire area in this country. The nursing home problem is enormous. We feel that there should be a greater surveillance of nursing homes, and it's something that should be dealt with very seriously and right away.
You and I may be aware of fire, but how do you educate the elderly and the very young?
Well, one of the big jobs is doing what we're doing right now. We're trying to reach the public through the press, because the American public does not know generally that the fire prevention issue is the main one.
So before we can make any moves, we're going to have to do lots of study. And besides this, if the state does take it over, as the governor has indicated, I feel that we should wait until a special session is held in order to determine exactly what they're going to do, because if we was to instigate it and just keep it 3 months and they take it over after that, it'd be a big waste of taxpayers' dollars. So we certainly don't want to do that until we determine exactly what they are going to do in the special session.
Apparently those studies are already underway. A copy of the contract that would exist between the state of Texas and Dallas County is in the hands of County Auditor George K. Smith for his study. A team of computer experts from Dallas County are in Austin to take a look at the record keeping. Welfare Director Glenn Coker has been ordered to make a study as to how many locations would be needed if the food stamp program went into effect and how many people would be needed to man those locations. The main thing is now Dallas County must be prepared to move one way or another, depending upon what the state of Texas does and when. Jerry Park for Channel 8 News on the Move.
Well, we feel that we ought to give these older students an opportunity to try college if they want to. Previously, at UTA, we have never allowed a student to enroll as a freshman unless he took the SAT and the achievement test also. So starting with the fall semester of 72, we're going to allow the student who's 25 years of age to enroll. And we feel like a student that is this old is motivated. At least he knows why he wants to go to school, so we want to give him a chance to try it. And along with this, we're also cutting out the achievement test requirement. Before, we've also always required achievement tests along with the SAT. But we're discontinuing this because this will reduce the cost, for one reason, about $10.50 per test per individual.